So we are going to go into lists. So since last 2 years, Mailchimp has renamed. It used to call this list, but now it calls it an audience. And the philosophy behind this is because a list is, when you think of a list, you think of just your email list or your database. But when you think of audience, it's a larger vision that, of the ecosystem, that, the audience can also be a part of any other medium. As I don't know, many of you might not be aware, but Mailchimp is also starting a service to send letters, manual letters, to you know, through normal snail mail, as we like to call it. So we are going to first start with creating an audience. So let us call this audience name email marketing webinar attendees. So we choose a name, we enter the from address, which will be the sender's email address, the email from which you will be sending the campaigns. So in this case, I will enter my email address. You can enter your company name, your organization's name, or your name. Some people do prefer to enter their own name because it is more personalized, and people find it more attractive to open any email which is coming from a person that they already know, and it's a familiar sounding name. I choose to keep it my company name, but this is a personal choice. Now it's good to fill in these information. It will, while you're creating an audience, it will ask you, the address, city, zip code, country, and phone number. It's not mandatory, but however, it's always a good idea to fill in this information, because what happens is when you are creating an automated template, the footer, which is mandatory, the details in the footer, like you must have noticed the emails in the footer, there's the company name and address and phone number, contact details. They automatically come in through this. So if you have this filled up already, then you don't have to actually enter it every time you send an email. So it's kind of like a signature, you can say. So you can choose to receive a notification. Let's say, you want to receive a notification of any subscriber activity. Let's say somebody unsubscribes to your email, or let's say, somebody new joins in to your audience list. You can just tick here. I choose to keep it as it is. Save. It's asking us to write a short reminder about how the recipient joined your audience. Now, this in particular is very critical, and this comes in handy when an audience, when somebody receives an email and they really don't know why you have contacted them. And this gives them a chance to connect with you, or to renew their acquaintance with you at some point. So you can, if you have met somebody in a networking group, you can say we've met many years ago, and or if you're marketing to an existing customer, you can say thank you for being a valued customer. We can say thank you for joining session. Now, once we do have the list set up, what is the next step? Now we have our list, but it has 0 contacts. So the next step is to start building your list. Now, what are the two ways you build a list? One, you import your existing contacts into the list. And the second is that you reach out to a new audience and you ask them to join. This could be an advertisement on Facebook. This could be an AdWords campaign. This could be your very own website. And if you're running a blog or a website which has formidable traffic, it's always a good idea to add a subscription form. You must have noticed that websites, they have a subscribe form. So you can create a subscribe form here and embed it in your website. Or if you already have subscribers through another source, or you have an existing customers database, you can click on add contact and add them as a subscriber. So I'm going to add one subscriber. Let's just try and add myself here. So if you noticed, it's asking me for my first name, last name, address, and these are all details which are by default inside Mailchimp. So when you create an audience, this these data fields are already pre-populated. But I highly recommend that, especially our audience, all of us are we are coming from India, and uh, we need to have our marketing strategy compliant with the region. The issue with these default fields sometimes is that, for example, the phone number, it does not accept a plus. Sometimes it does not accept a bracket open, because many people, they sometimes they enter a +91, or they enter a bracket, something like this. So I would always urge you to go into the audience advanced settings and change these field settings. I will explain you and give you a brief demo later on. But for now, I will enter my first name and last name and my email ID. Now I will select this person gave me permission to email them, and I subscribe. So as you can see now, my audience has changed from 0 to 1. So we have now one subscriber. But what if I have 10,000 subscribers in an Excel file? How would that work? How would, if we have, let's say, a list of 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 subscribers, one by one, this is going to be a tedious job. So what we can do is, the second alternative option is, you can actually click here, add contacts, and then select import contacts. And once you go into import contacts, Mailchimp will ask you how you would like to import contacts. So it gives you an option to upload a file. You can actually also just copy and paste from a file, and you can use an integrated service. If you are using a service or CRM like Zoho or Salesforce, you can actually integrate your services with Mailchimp. So right now we are going to do the most basic. We'll give you a demo of how we can import contacts. So I will open an Excel file. So those of you who, most of you are entrepreneurs, you're familiar that Excel is the go-to tool for maintaining lists and databases. Sales teams, they still prefer Excel for their day-to-day routine jobs. So let's say I create a webinar list. Now let's say I enter first name, last name, and email address. Now let's say I enter, let's say I enter an email address that will be Say I enter. So I've created two records over here, and this is for a demo purpose. I don't want to take too much of your valuable time, so we'll just do a quick import with these two records just to show you how the process works. So we can save this as a CSV file. A CSV file is nothing but a comma separated values, and it's basically a version of Excel. So I choose and save file types. I choose CSV here, and I save this as webinar list. I select yes, and now I go into my Mailchimp account, click on CSV, continue. I click on browse and I select my Mailchimp list. So I click on continue to match. Now here, this is the step where we have to map the fields within Mailchimp with the corresponding fields in our Excel file. So if you notice, we created three columns: first name, last name, and email address. And we are going to connect these. So now if you see that there is an exact match, it has found first name, so it has already selected it. It has found last name, so it has already selected it. But sometimes you could maybe have a different nomenclature, a different labeling standard in your company. Maybe you, instead of adding, labeling this as email address, maybe you label the column as, with column heading as email ID. So in that case, you will have to do a mapping, and how that mapping works is just click on edit and you select the field within Mailchimp. So in this case, I'm importing my email address. This is my Excel sheet email column heading, which is email address. So I select from the drop down the email address and I click save. So once you have these process, you have this process done, then you will see that this button gets enabled. It will not let you go further if you do not map all the fields. You will either have to map them or you will have to click the skip button. So once this process is done, you click on organize. It'll ask you if you want to update. Now, many times what happens is we have a list of recurring customers. A lot of my the companies that we work with, they maintain a list of customers who give them orders, and a lot of those customers are repeat buyers. So they often have a list of email IDs which are already inside Mailchimp. But sometimes the first time they had the customer data, they did not have the phone number, but this time they have now more data. So what you can do is you can click on update existing contacts. So if there's any change, it will actually update. Now I click on continue to review. So finally, it will, if any of the steps, if there was any error, you will see a message here. So right now everything is fine. So we click on import. So as you can see now, I have imported two more contacts and my audience list has been up to date. Now the next step, now we have made our audience list, right? But let's say, you want to organize your audience list. Let's say I want to do a campaign to people who have attended the webinar and people who have not attended the webinar. So how do I do that? I click on manage contacts and I create groups. Now I click on create groups. I select this as a radio button because this will be either yes or no. Now here I will say attended webinar. Here I can say attended webinar, registered but did not attend. Because ideally, I would like to send a video recording, let's say, to the people who were unable to attend. So I would like to, I don't want to bother people who have already spent all their precious time for the session. And I start bothering them again, giving them recaps, videos, and, follow-ups. So I would like to create a segment here. And two different segments I have created based on people who have attended and people who have not attended. I click on save. Now we click done. So now you see that you have groups in your audience settings. You will see that you have groups over here. When you click on view groups, you can actually see how many contacts are in each group. And now this is actually called a segment. So this attended webinar, 0 contact, this is one segment and this is another segment. Now, how can we manage these segments? We can go into our contacts, manage contact, and then click on view contacts. Now let's say Harsh Singh, he has not attended the webinar. So what I will do is now you can see, I can see this group segment in the profile. I just have to click edit and I will select registered but did not attend. Perfect. So now if I go back, I can click next or back to toggle between, the screens between each audience. Now let's say Rubina Singh, she is very much a participant. So I will say attended the webinar. Now let's say attended the webinar. So now when I go back to my audience groups, you will see that each segment has been populated accordingly. If I go into groups, it takes a few minutes to refresh. So it is going to refresh and it usually takes a few minutes to refresh because it is recalibrating the database based on the new segmentation profile. The segmentation profile is now becoming almost a rule, and it's without which, I believe that it's going to be very, very non-productive, to even invest time and money in the practice of email marketing, because different customers will be coming from different sources. They might be interested, they have different interests, they might be in a different phase of the customer journey. We've been honored to work with Pinnacle Honda Motors. They are a respectable client, and they have 5 showrooms of Honda Motors in West Bengal. And when we were doing campaigning for them, it took us 15 days to set up segments based on the journey. Let's say, somebody walks into their showroom but does not buy a car or does not even ask for a test drive. That's one part of the journey. Somebody walks into the showroom and says, "Mujhe test drive leni hai gaadi ki," and he takes a test drive. So that's a different journey. Somebody walks into the showroom, he takes the test drive, and he also pays the booking amount and he selects the car. And there could be another type of customer who's actually made the purchase finally. So all of these are in different phase of the journey. They will require a different set of communications to engage with them. Somebody who has just had a test drive but has not made up his mind, it would make sense to send them more details about the car. Somebody who has already purchased the car, maybe it would make more sense to send them emails regarding how to maintain, remind them about their service. You could have a database with their date of purchase or their service time, and you can send them automated emails कि भाई आपकी कार की सर्विस ड्यू है अगले 15 दिन में. Let's say somebody has bought the car and they have a car insurance, and their insurance is due You can have a reminder email for that कि आपकी insurance 15 दिन में due है, आपके service, so they will require a different kind of automation, and somebody who is just still on the fence, who has not jumped the fence, is still deciding. Maybe you want to send them a different kind of email. So segmentation is very important. So the numbers are not showing. It does take a few minutes to calibrate. However, when you click on the groups, you can actually very well see that the system itself. So I've clicked on the segment of people who have attended, and I can see that these two have attended. So my entire list has 3 members, but now it has properly segmented each of the audience member. So now you see the numbers have been populated. So it does take a few minutes. Now I can select the person who has not attended, and I can click, and it will only show me that one particular audience right here. So this is your entire process of managing your list, grouping them. Now let's say you want to go into more advanced settings. We have limited time for this webinar, and I appreciate and I really respect the time that you have taken. All of you have taken out to attend the session. So I don't want to actually take the time for granted. I will not cover the very very advanced and nitty gritty aspects, but I would like to run past the audience fields and merge tags. This is a this plays a very key role actually in any kind of, it could be an automation or even a basic email. When you write dear first name, dear first name and last name. So it's very important to actually just know briefly how you can control this. You can click on settings while you are in your audience panel, and then click on audience fields and merge tags. So you see now, this is what I've been talking about. It has the email address, first name, last name, address, and the phone number. So you see here the phone number, it says international. So what you can do is, ideally, I do recommend all my customers to use a text field as a phone number. So let's see how that works. We'll do that as a demo. We'll delete this. Now we are going to click on add a field. And we are going to select this actually as a text, because we don't data is, frankly, if you have data where it should be, nothing like having the phone number as a number. But then frankly, I've seen a lot of database lists and phone numbers. They sometimes have a plus sign, they sometimes have a hyphen, they have brackets, so they have spaces in between, and all of that will create problems for you. So it's always good and safe to use the phone number as a text field. You can label it so that you remember it when you are personalizing an email. It will be very easy for you to create a name which you can easily memorize. And then we click on save name, save changes. So you do have to click the button to update the new merge tags. Once you do click on save changes, you will see that your new audience type. Now, one thing that I would like to add is that, Mailchimp, it's a US based cloud service, and it's a great service which millions of customers in India are using. But I mean, I would say that, if you have a list, let's say, आप email campaign भेज रहे हो एक list में, और आपकी list में रतन टाटा जी हैं, and आप personalize करते हो email, and now the default template in Mailchimp is dear F name. So do you think if you send email to Ratan Tata ji by addressing him as dear Ratan, how will he like it? So I would always recommend by default, while addressing with the first name, it might be perfectly acceptable, but I would highly also recommend that have another field called title. So what happens is that when you have a title field, you can always create one more column in your database called title, and you can Mr., Miss. So this will look a lot more emails. Trust me, emails are great way of communicating, but one of the reasons why people are still struggling with email marketing is because they have forgotten the best practices. If you are sending an email, trust me, the most important thing of any individual is his or her name. And if you can address them with their name properly, you actually automatically get respect from the customer in the first go itself. So if you have the title and the emails are, uh, the customer receives the email with their designated title, you could have a list of doctors, and doctors do like to be addressed with their title, dear doctor so and so. In fact, in many countries, like say in Germany, we were reading about email laws. It is actually a punishable act. It can, a professional can actually sue the person, sue the sender of the email if he is not addressing a doctor as a doctor. So it's always good to have title field. But once I was talking to one of our customers, Mr. Vishal Malhotra, who is also in the webinar, and I must thank him, and I want to acknowledge this, that Mr. Vishal, we were talking about strategizing their email campaigns, and we discussed, that we must have a title, and then we must, and he gave a great idea, which I want to share with you, and I give him the 100% credit for this great idea. He said, why don't we just put G? Because if you have a list, and your list, most of the people are, from locally from India, you can actually put dear first name space G. And G is actually a very universal word. You can actually apply it for a female as well as male. So if you, it's still better than addressing Ratan Tata as dear Ratan. It would look a lot better if you address him as dear Ratan G. And it's a universal. It can be equally. It works equally well for female as well. So it could be dear Neha Ji, dear Ratan Ji. It works perfectly. It is perfectly acceptable. So that's there. And now we can move on to the last step. The second last step is designing your email template. So we have the list ready, and we are going to now set up a template. So how do we set up the template? On the top, you see all of these menu items. Right now we have explored audience. Now we are going to explore brand, and then click on templates. Now we are going to click on create template, and we'll choose a layout. There are hundreds of great layouts in Mailchimp. Once you click on template layout, you will be offered a lot of different options. I recommend for your starters, you can start with the one column layout. I request the participants to kindly unmute themselves. All right. So we are now going to select one column template. So as you can see, this is a basic template, but it has all the good stuff in it. You can start playing around with this template. So what is the anatomy of an email really? Once you select the template, it's important to understand what are the body parts of your email. So the body parts of your email are the pre-header, which is right there on the top, the header, the body, and the footer. Four major body parts. So it does become very complicated for a person who is doing this for the first time. So just to make it easier for you, I will go to style and change the background colors so that you can easily distinguish between each body part. Now let's say this is the pre-header. I have selected a black background, and a white color. So you see, this is called the pre-header. Now this is the header part. I select header and let's select a light gray background. So you see over here, this is the header. Now let's say this is the body, which is white in color. So you can easily distinguish the three parts of an email template. And finally, this is the footer. So let's also make this a little lighter shade of black, or you can say a darker shade of gray. And we change the colors of the font and text to white. There you go. And finally, you have the, the main core canvas, which is the page. So let's select a different color altogether for the page. So you can actually see the email standing out. Different marketers have different approaches and they have their own different favorite colors. Uh, I have seen great results with the blue and orange color. It somehow motivates people to click, and that's entirely the whole objective of sending emails. We want people to interact with us, but this is again a personal choice. A lot of different industries have their different colors. A lot of people in the legal industry, they work with black and white only. A lot of people in the medical industry, they work with greens and light blues. So it's really, it's a personal choice. A lot of people in the fashion industry prefer just white and black. So we have your template setup. So you can see very clearly now all the four components of your email are distinct. You can see them distinctly. Now we select the logo over here. It's already, you can see there is a module. You can just hover your mouse on it and you see this pencil icon. You can click on this pencil and then click on replace and actually insert a real logo here. So you can actually have a logo added. So let's say I add the company logo. So as you can see, it's a great feature. You have it's basically a ready-made template. There's nothing but basically you can call it a pattern. So once you have the pattern, all you have to do is, stitch it according to, your size and requirements. Now I have selected the logo, the image. It would be a good idea to click on the pencil icon again and just do some more settings. You can click on link and you can link it with your website. This is a good idea. Always remember that the objective of us, we are sending emails to our customers is to make them engage. Either they click on the email and they go into website where they stumble upon more useful content, they start engaging with your and you have a conversation. So it's always a good idea to give that option to your customer. You can change how according to the design, you can just change. You can also adjust these, basic blocks. Like for example, the pre-header, I find it too prominent. I can click, go back to style, and I can just select pre-header. I can reduce the padding on the top and bottom to make it more sleek. I can reduce the font size to 10 for the pre-header. This is also a text module. I can hover my mouse and I see the pencil icon. I can edit this text. It says view this email in your browser. I can change it to view online. So this is actually a default module of Mailchimp. It's automatically linked to the web version of your email. So this is very useful because a lot of people, they especially if you are sending a newsletter. Newsletters tend to be very long, and people like to read it properly in their phone. If they are on the phone and they have to go through a very long email, they prefer to click on view online and see the bigger version. Because always remember that Gmail and Hotmail, they cut your emails. If they are more than 1 MB, they will cut the email in between. It's approximately, it turns out to be 1100 words, they cut the emails. So it's always better to have this view online button, if only if you are doing a very long email. Otherwise, this altogether can go. So once you have this ready, you can actually put in you can hover on the body pencil icon and also start writing the content of your email. So here I would just like to start with the salutation. So dear, now how do I insert a merge field? I want to address the person with their title and first name. So I will add star pipe title pipe. And remember, the merge field has to be exact spelling as. Now, this is why it's very important when I was giving you the overview of the audience dashboard and checking the merge fields, because this has to be exact spelling and you need to get it right. Uh, I always recommend previewing your email or sending a test email to yourself first. So we have F name. There you go. You can reduce the font size a little bit. So how will this look like? How do we know that? We can create a campaign, and when we create the campaign, we'll connect it with our audience list and do a field test before actually sending the campaign. So, but it should look like, if it works correctly, it should look like dear Mr. Robbie, dear Miss Dina, dear Miss Rubina, something like that. And here we can start with the text of our email. So thank you for registering for the webinar. We missed you during the live session, and here is and we understand if you would like to view the webinar session, kindly click link below to see the webinar recording. And we can actually have a link here. How can we can easily upload the webinar or whatever. What if you are writing a blog, if you are selling a product, you can add the link of your product page, whatever. So in this case, I will go to blogs, and now I will add a button. I will select the button and I will select view webinar recording. Now here I can enter the URL of the YouTube video, or if it's embedded in my website, I can just insert the website. So there you go. You have everything set up. Then the last but not the least, the footer. Now footer is very critical. Firstly, if you want to have some information about your company, your web page links, or other pages for people who are interested in reading more, you can have more details over here in the text module. You can also have a social media links. So there's a social media module over here. I request the participants to please keep on mute. So you can click on this pencil icon again, and you can actually insert the URL of your social media. It's quite simple. Like let's say if I want to have my social media icon, I can just let's say I want to use Facebook. So I copy the address of my Facebook URL and you can just insert it over here. Same way, if I have a Twitter account, if I don't wish to use Twitter, whatever social media icons you use, let's say you are using Instagram. So how do you add a new icon? Very simple. You click on add another service and then you select from the drop down, you select Instagram. It's pretty much the whole buffet of social media, whatever you want to integrate, you name it and they have it. So you select Instagram and now you can actually have your Instagram link placed. I copy the Instagram URL and I paste it and there we go. So we have this done. Now this is the default text. You can play around and change it. Ideally, I would recommend you to keep it as it is because this is something, if you see, Mailchimp is the most popular email marketing tool. 1 out of every 3 emails in your inbox are coming from Mailchimp. So this footer might be looking very familiar to you because usually this is the standard footer. I like to tweak it because I want to keep, I want my emails to look very unique, branded and different. So I sometimes like to insert an image module here and put the company's logo again. Uh, I can select the logo again, or I like to play around with it, but it's totally, it's your choice how you want to. I recommend for beginners who are just starting to keep this as it is and, play around with it a little later once you get acquainted with all the merge tags. However, it's a good idea to know how this all works, and I'm just tweaking the look and feel a little bit. So there we go. So we have now, but I will understand, I will just give you a quick overview of why this is there. So if you see the first step when we created the audience, if you remember, I told you that we have to enter the company name and the company address and all these details. So basically that was the purpose of entering all the details. Automatically your company name will be pre-populated. It doesn't matter, if even if you don't enter everything, if you have entered your company name ABC company, automatically you see here the merge tag list company. When you send the campaign, it will be it will be replaced by your actual company name. So you can keep this as it is. The list description, if you remember, there was a there was a field which where we entered how what was the purpose of adding these subscribers. So this will be added here. I generally like to keep it short and sweet. You can remove it. This is the mailing address. I generally do not use it, but it's again a personal choice. Now these, if you see, this is mandatory. This line is mandatory. So I recommend not to play around with this. You can maybe change the heading. You can change the English of it. You can change the wordings. That's not a problem. But I would suggest you highly to keep these 2 links as it is. Because one is to update your preferences and the other is to unsubscribe. And legally, this is compulsory, without which Mailchimp will not even let you send the campaigns. The last line, this might be a little confusing. It says rewards. So what exactly is rewards? Basically, this is again compulsory for the free accounts. As you know, Mailchimp is offering an amazing service of free email service up till 2,000 subscribers and 12,000 emails. But it does insert its own logo in the footer, and this code basically inserts the Mailchimp logo unless you are not a freemium user. So that is why there is a condition if rewards HTML and if. So what happens is that if you're using a free Mailchimp account, it will automatically, this will be replaced by the logo. And if your account is a premium account, this will not, it will not work basically. You can even remove it if you want to. So we click on save. Now we have our basic template done and ready. I can just tweak whatever, you can always do the finishing touches, whatever you like. And uh, I'm generally, personally, I'm a very minimalistic person. I prefer to use very minimal designs, very minimal colors in our emails, because I have noticed that the shorter emails and the emails which have which are to the point, they are actually more effective than the emails which are very long and which are too colorful and too because it really confuses the eyes, and you really want your customer to stay focused. You can change the alignment. These are all personal settings, so we can keep adding the bells and whistles, but for now this template is fine. We can start testing it. So let's call this webinar recording. Now we have the template recording. We have the template for the webinar recording. Now, how do we automate this? How do we let this, I want this email to go to the people who are not participating, and I don't have the time to actually individually send an email to all 50 people. It will be crazy for me. And for any other businessman, email marketing is a very small part of your entire marketing ecosystem. But uh, however small it might be, it's always good to automate whatever you can, because after all, I often joke with my team members that if we can automate our marketing, we all will play golf. So uh, so we must at least strive for our automation. So how do we automate this template? We go into campaigns. Now we click on create campaign. Now over here we click on email, and you see these 4 tabs. Regular email is a regular campaign that you just send to your list, you know. And if you want to do a scheduled campaign and automated, you select the next tab, which is automated. Now, Mailchimp offers a plethora of automations. You can send happy birthdays. You can send an automation when some activity happens on your website. If you are running an e-commerce store, you can trigger emails based on, you must have noticed, if you are on Amazon, if you're buying something, but you don't complete the order, you get a reminder email. So that's an abandoned cart email. You can also automate emails based on their activity, what they're viewing. There's a whole plethora of options, but right now we are going to select the basic automation for which is relevant to our project objective. So we are going to select subscriber activity. We're going to click on featured, and we will mention over here, welcome new subscribers. So we click on welcome new subscribers, and we write the campaign name, webinar recording to people who missed the session. Now I select my audience type. I don't want to send this campaign to people who are attending, because I don't want to always remember that emails can also be very, very annoying. So if the strategies that you're using are not made properly, your emails can even end up into a disaster. So what we are going to recommend is that when we set up the automation, we have to be very relevant to our audience. So once we have set up this automation, it's going to trigger on its own every time somebody joins, right? So we are going to now, we can click on start sending, but we want to use the advanced settings because we don't want to send it to the entire audience. So we click on use advanced settings. So over here, now you see that it says trigger, schedule, filter, and post send action. Now I will explain the trigger part. It's very simple. We click on the trigger and I change the trigger now. Now it will offer me more options. So what I want to actually do is I want to do audience management, and I click on join a group, because remember we had a separate group for people who did not attend. So I select registered but did not attend, and I update the trigger. Now this will only go to people who did not attend the webinar. And I click on schedule, it will be going. So this email will be basically working 24 hours. This will be your 24/7 secretary, as you can say. Once I do the automation part, then I can just relax. So one final time, I will do the testing of the email to ensure that it is working. I click on design email. So I change the name here, webinar recording. This is very important part, and we can't afford to miss this. We have to write the subject. This is very critical. The whole email can be you can spend hours and hours designing a beautiful email, but if the subject is not attractive, you will lose your audience there and then. They will not even open the email. Forget about clicking or engaging. So here you email automation webinar. We think you will like it. Let's say, okay, from name, and then we click next. Now we select our template that has already been selected. So we click on next. So the template has not been selected. We go back, you see at the bottom of the tab, all the steps are at the bottom. So we go back to the template and we select the template that we just designed, which was for our automation. And we connect the automation with the template that we designed in the step before this. And there we go. So we do a testing here. Now, how do we test it? We just click on preview and test and enter preview mode. Now you see, I can actually see how my email will look in a desktop, in somebody's mobile phone. I can check how it will look in somebody's Gmail inbox, how it will. So we select the desktop. I think the email is looking wonderful, and we click on live merge to see if our merge tags are working fine. So you see that the merge tags are working fine, but it is not displaying the title, test title. So it's possibly because the title was not entered for this particular name. That's perfectly all right. So we just set it up, and now we click on this cross and we go back to our automation and save and continue. And all we have to do is now click on next and start our automation. And we click on the start sending button, and you see that one person who has not attended will receive the email immediately. Now start sending. So there you go. So I can go into my audience records and I can now check which was that one person who has received the webinar recording. Once you set up the automation, it takes a few seconds for the automation to trigger. So we have just set up the automation, and you will see that in a few seconds, the email will be delivered, and we can actually see all the reports. We can actually see two types of reports. We can see reports of every particular individual. What was his activity? How many emails did he receive? How many did he open? And we can also see reports based on a campaign. Like, you send a campaign to 5,000 people, how many people opened, and all of that can be seen on this tab at the top. So now we have explored the audience, we have explored campaigns, we have explored automation, we have explored audiences, we have explored brands. And lastly, you can see the reports of your automation over here. We click on reports, and then we can actually check. We can click on the button right besides our campaign or our automation to check the reports. And you can actually see, so here you see a small link, view subscribers in queue. So anytime something is triggered, the email, the action will be put in the queue. So you can see that nothing is in the queue. So the email has probably gone out already. We click on the detailed reports over here. So the email has to be triggered. So we'll have to actually, because we have just set up the automation, and we'll have to trigger this automation. So we are going to, what we are going to do is we are going to go into our audience list, and we are going to select an audience who has, we'll have to trigger the automation, of course. So we'll have to click on attended webinar, let's say, and we change this group. We go to edit and we select registered but did not attend. As soon as an audience is imported or their status is changed, this automation will be triggered. Obviously, we had already added the audience before we set up the audience. That's why that was not triggered. But from here on, from this point onwards, since we have set up the automation, now the new audience that is going to come in, they will basically be segmented and they will be sent the automated email based on the trigger points. But what about the audience which was already in your list prior to the automation? You can always go into your audience and you can actually send the old audience the same campaign just by going into groups. And you can click on view groups. And when you see these groups, so if you want to send a campaign manually, you can just click on the send button and a regular campaign, and you can actually send the same process you have to follow. Just like you created the automation campaign, you create a regular campaign and click send. So let us just go back to our inbox and see, are we getting the emails or not? So as you can see, I've just received one email at the top, Defocus. It has come from Defocus, and the subject is email automation webinar. And there you go. So a nice, wonderful email, automated, has come to me. And every time now, as you can see, I changed the trigger that the person did not attend, and he immediately received the automation email. And now this email is now set up permanently. So guys, I think I hope you found this webinar useful, and I would love to talk. I can talk about this for days. It's really I'm very passionate, but I can also see a lot of you are dropping out from the webinar. I have taken a lot of your precious time. So I believe that I would like to stop the session here, but I really want to keep this as interactive as possible. So I would love to. I would like to invite all of you for if you have any queries, any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You have our emails and you have our contact details, and we would love to have such webinars and such interactions more often, and we would like to have it both ways. Thank you, Praveen ji. Thank you, Vishal ji. Thank you. It was wonderful for all of you to take this time out, especially so late. So I'm sure it's dinner time, and we all would love to have a dinner. But I hope this was very helpful for the participants. And please, also give me your feedback of what you would like to know more about. And I would be very happy to conduct more webinars based on what kind of things you want to know more about. So thanks a lot, guys. It was really nice, all of you joining in for this wonderful, it's great, all of you. And thank you very much. And
thank you, Robbie. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Robbie, this is very informative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Kishore ji.
सर मैं आपको कॉल करूंगा, थोड़ी ऑटोमेशन, थोड़ी आपकी ऑटोमेशन अच्छी है, थोड़ी हम और अच्छा सीख लेंगे. ठीक है सर.
ठीक है किशोर जी. No, anytime.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Definitely.
I'll share your email ID. It's this session was quite helpful. So if you have any doubt, we can just drop you a mail.
Definitely, definitely, sir. If you have any doubt, you need any help, our team and I would personally, be very happy to attend to your queries. And we would be very happy. And by the way, I would like to also inform you that Mailchimp is offering a free web domain, especially during this COVID crisis. Entrepreneurs have taken it. Some of the business and industries have had major losses and problems and inconvenience. So Mailchimp is offering free domain also for new account holders, and there's obviously till 2,000 subscribers there's free service. So I think this is a great time. This is a transitioning time, and I encourage all of you to start using this wonderful tool. And trust me, the email it's a wonderful world, and I've seen a lot of companies benefit from it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Just share your email ID if possible.
Sure. I will put it on chat, and please you can please feel free.
In chat box, sir. It will be helpful.
Yes, it's in the chat box. mail@deepfocus.in.
Okay, right. Thank you very much.
And I apologize. A lot of people had actually asked many questions, so I will be attending to your questions. Thank you, Ravi ji. Oh, you have worked in GE Capital. Good to know. Good to know. Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you, Mr. Bhanu.
I also worked for GE for some time in controllership.
Oh, okay. So I think GE is. I have great memories of GE. So
right.
It's always. It has been a real eye opener. I started back in the days 2002, and it was. I have wonderful memories of.
Right. It's good company to work for, I tell you.
Yes, it's a good company, and I think GE makes entrepreneurs. I have met so many entrepreneurs later on in my journey who were all former GEs. So it's great. Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you, Rajiv ji. Thank you, sir. Vishal ji, I'll send you email with the more details.
Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you.
Let's talk soon, right?
Thank you, Mr. Gandhi. Thank you, Mr. Harry. Oh, great.
Thank you so much. You made it seem all very interesting and simple. It was really nice. Thank you so much.
We are very honored. Thank you.
Hi, Robbie. This is Megha. Thank you
Megha.
so much for the session.
Megha ji, how are you?
Very well, and I love the session.
Thank you.
I've been thinking about this for a very long time, and I had a lot of doubts. And I was thinking that I'll ask a lot of questions, but the way you presented was really good. And I'm not going to call you and bother you a lot to know more about it.
It's a big privilege, and for the participants, I must tell you the other participant, Miss Megha, she is the president of chapter president of BNI chapter Dazzlers, and the kind of energy.
Also Robbie's buddy.
Yes, definitely, and I'm learning a lot from you. Trust me, and your energy is really appreciated in the entire group. And
no, thank you so much, Robbie. And actually, you should be doing more such sessions.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
I've also put in my feedback. Wanted a feedback. My feedback is you should do more such sessions.
So
and
nice
thank you so much. Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you. It's a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham. Thank you for joining the session. All right. Thank you, Tarunji, for coming in. Take care. All right, Tarunji. Bye. Take care. Thank you, Ms. Kulji. Thank you for joining the session. Thank you, Rubina. Thank you, Geeta ji.